Today's episode is sponsored by Permanent Hearing Damage, which is a recording studio based in Philadelphia, owned and operated by Steve Roche from Seisha, Off Minor, Boer War, which you're hearing now, and many others. They've spent the last 25 years specializing in recording, mixing, mastering for punk, hardcore, metal, and related genres at artist-friendly prices. Some recent clients include Piers, Foxtails, Masanera, Closer, Rambo, Stinking Lizaveta, Sanagi, and Witching. Contact Permanent Hearing Damage via their website, permanenthearingdamage.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. You can go there and sign up to support the show, get lots of music sneak peeks, read zines, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Devouring by Braininavat, featuring Jeremy Jones on vocals. The song comes from their debut EP, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
When I was young, I really liked the Backstreet Boys. I loved pop music. I really like Boyz II Men. That's the stuff I really love. And thinking about it more now, I honestly think the catalyst for me is I did musical theater. So I'd become accustomed to performing on a stage and singing, and practicing and learning music through singing and musical theater. And then I think once I got really into rock music and punk music, when I saw videos of people performing, I was like, well, I could do that, And then once I started going to shows, I think that was the thing that it all kind of clicked. I was like, oh, I could do that. I've performed on stages before. I've sung goofy, musical songs in front of a bunch of people. And so I started learning guitar, and I'm pretty bad at guitar. I still love playing guitar. My partner brought me an amazing guitar a few years ago, and I love playing it. It's when I write, I love to just kind of pick at it, keeps my brain moving, Mm-hmm. But yeah, now I do vocals, and I think because of that background and because of doing musical theater, it's kind of a full circle thing because I do vocals now in the band.
Okay, and let me ask you. So, you're looking at you're looking at your through line for this was you were a part of these performances and these theater performances, and you're talking about you see music videos and you're like, I could do that. So were you more or less were you strictly looking at this this is the physical act that my body could do, and so you were coming at it from more of the performance aspect of it than the I don't know how to put it, but the emotional dividends that you needed out of it or whatever.
Yeah, I think initially, yes, it
Mm-hmm.
felt like an extension of doing theater to me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the first live videos that really struck me as I watched The Song Remains the Same by Led Zeppelin, the movie.
Okay.
It was watching them on stage, and that's obviously such a huge performance. There's all these different things going on,
Mm-hmm.
And to me that really clicked in my young mind. But later when I got into punk, and I got into like Fugazi, and I discovered like screamo later, and post-hardcore. That's when the more of the emotional aspect kind of came in for me.
Yeah.
And I think since then it's been more about that.
Yeah. It's 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 I don't know. All I can think about now is like I'm not sure if I've seen the Led Zeppelin thing that you're talking about specifically, but when when I was living in Ohio for a little while, and I lived with my cousin, there were some people like in the next. It was an apartment, like it was an apartment complex, but it was like they all of the apartments were first floor, so it was more like a bunch of duplexes kind of deal, but it wasn't quite duplexes, right? But
Right.
anyway, a couple of the people from the next building over, it was just younger people, and they were like kind of the only other younger people there, and would see me coming in with guitars or whatever, from band practices or whatever, and so one of them like hit me up, and they're just like, you know, do you get high, come over and like get high sometime. And at the time, at the time, like, long story short, I had been homeless for months, and I had like recently broken up with someone, who I thought was like the love of my life at the time, and I'm like early 20s, and I had been homeless, and so it was like anything goes. I'm like, yeah, fucking yeah, let's. And I went over one night, and it was just like a bunch of people just like passing drugs around, and of course a Led Zeppelin like documentary slash like live show or whatever was on, and that was like literally the first time I ever was like, wait, Led Zeppelin is kind of cool. So it's funny that it's funny that that sort of trope exists, you know that's how I became to be like, wait, they are actually kind of cool. But yeah, and that also, brings us back around to Ohio. So we have that connective tissue there. But
Yeah. Where did you live in Ohio?
I was actually born in Dayton, and I moved.
Wow.
I lived down in Florida for like most of all of my teenage years, and then I moved back to Dayton for a little while because I was homeless, and the at the time, especially where I lived, like they pretty much just straight up would not rent like to younger people. And
Wow.
so, like, I literally had like two jobs, but I was just like sleeping in a car in the middle of the Florida summer, just like trying not to die. and and yeah, they just like wouldn't rent. They just wouldn't rent to you. Like a lot of, I don't know how it was like legal or whatever, but a lot of places, like literally, it would be like, we do not rent to people under 25. And I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem legal, but
No.
uh, you know maybe it was like maybe it was a thing that was legal at that time. I am like a bit older, but yeah, it's, I don't know, it was whack. So I did end up back in Indiana, or in Ohio, for a while before I moved to Indiana. But yeah, so like, you know your your journey from like, musical performance to like band performance, musical, like, as it were, is kind of like, that's easy enough to understand. You 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 kind of went straight from I like Boys to Men to I like Fugazi, though. Like, what happened in the middle there? Like, how did you sort of get to know bands like that and stuff like that? Was it like a friend, or just like finally you heard something online and you're like, wait?
Yeah. I definitely remember how that happened. yeah, loved like that kind of like pop, like boy group kind of stuff for a really long time. And later, when I was like, I can't remember how old I was, but my dad was like big classic rock guy, and I was probably like 9 or 10, and he introduced me to like Led Zeppelin and The Doors and I don't know, all those bands. You know, you can fill in the blanks there. There's
Mm-hmm.
like plenty of bands, and I became actually I became really obsessed with Pink Floyd. I think because again, I was just like I was in musical theater, like these like over the top performances just really spoke to me. Um, but then probably when I was about 12 years old, my friend's brother, his name was Kyle, and bless Kyle, but because he gave us these mix CDs he made for me and my friend, and it had everything on it. It had Modest Mouse, it had Fugazi. I can't even remember. It's just like every band that I would ever come to love, and some that I would like later kind of grow out of, like metal bands, like kind of cornier stuff that I just don't vibe with now. I don't even know, like Children of Bodom or like black metal bands that I don't really, for many reasons don't mess with now.
Sure.
But hearing that stuff, that like just blew my mind. And going from like the hard rock of the 70s to that was honestly kind of natural. But yeah, it was through that I started to discover punk rock, because there was also like Dead Kennedys on there, and there was the Sex Pistols and Television and yeah, and then like Fugazi stuff. At first, Fugazi made no sense to me. I was like, this is weird. It's like, like their voices are like crazy compared to like, even something like Dead Kennedys. Like obviously Jello's voice, very weird to
Yeah.
listen to, honestly. Like he's going nuts.
Yeah.
But there's just something different about Fugazi, and I think it was that emotive thing. It's the emotion that was behind it was so raw, and I don't know, it had that melancholy sort of built into it. So, but it stuck with me, and then throughout the years, it really started to grow on me.
Yeah, it's I remember like one of the first things that I thought about Fugazi is like why are there two of them singing? Like it's not I don't like I'm like I'm kind of like either one of them could do both things. Like could do both of these voices. Like
Yeah,
what's and I must have heard bands where, where there was more than one person singing by them, but I don't know why it struck me as so different with them. I guess because, I I knew Ian MacKaye only like as a singer, and so it was kind of like, why is, but I actually, I liked Guy's voice better than Ian's, but do you know what I'm saying?
yes,
But it was just like, why are they, like, what's happening here? And but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't. They didn't throw me in a way that was negative in any way when I first heard them. Unlike unlike Quicksand, maybe like Quicksand from Gorilla Biscuits, like,
sure,
and it's
yeah,
not that I didn't like it. I was just like, I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't expecting Fugazi from Minor Threat or whatever either. But like, it wasn't the same. Like immediately, I was like, with Fugazi, I was like, uh, it was like, it was like a light bulb like went off in my head. Like, what they're doing with their guitars is like, this is important. This is the kind of thing that I like about guitars, like, as opposed to a lot of the music that I was really into at the time, like, just like, I don't know, Bad Religion, Minor Threat, stuff
sure,
like that, where it's
yeah,
like they're good guitar players, and like that stuff's not easy to play for everyone. Everybody has their different like sort of things that they gravitate towards, with guitar, but like, but yeah, just the sort of like thing about like, you know, when I pick up a guitar, and it's still like this to this day, is like I don't even I'm not really even trying to play a song. Like that doesn't like I just want to see what happens when I do something. Like it's like and I don't want to put my hands in the same spots, and which is ironic because like I play in a screamo band, you know.
Yeah.
I write like hundreds of screamo songs. Um, and I do put my hands in the. I have like favorite chords. Obviously, you know anybody could
Sure.
who's
Yeah,
listened to
absolutely.
more than one song could tell you that. But like when I just like play guitar though, I just like it's weird because there can be a part of our songwriting where I am just trying to make whatever I sat down and played that sounds horrible into like something that sounds like something people could listen to. And I often regret that like I don't just make something that sounds horrible and see what happens, you know? But like I'm afraid like I'm afraid my my like I'm real sensitive, and like I don't know. Like I'm sensitive to not like you know like I'm always like kind of like I make something that's really abrasive and nasty sounding, and then I'm like, well, why don't people like it? you know,
Right.
it's like you did this to yourself, you know. But yeah, it's
I think I have the opposite impulse. I like want it to be so raw. Uh, when I make music personally, like I used to do harsh noise and stuff,
uh huh,
and I just want it to sound horrible, but kind of almost a similar experience. Like it's atomizing. Like a lot of people don't want to hear that, and I understand why. It's challenging to listen to, and not pleasant. Like you were saying, like you listen to something not pleasant. A lot of people are like, I don't want to hear that.
mm-hmm.
And it's honestly with age that I've gotten more like, okay, I want to do that, but I want to be able to communicate to other people as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's I've said I don't talk about like a lot of the creative part about like Coma Regalia or whatever, but um I did let out like about our last album that like I wrote it in 2 days, and
Oh wow.
that's actually like the reason why it was 2 days is because I wrote it in one day, and then I was like, this doesn't sound like Coma Regalia. So I like went in and I took the recording, and I took like it's like everything was in like sort of the wrong keys and stuff, and I
Mhm.
moved it so that like I went in and I learned it like I I wrote it to be weirder than a Coma Regalia album. And then I was like, no, I went too far. It's basically so I went back and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna act like someone else wrote this and I'm learning it for Coma Regalia kind of deal, you know? And so that was the second day of writing it, was like just going, yeah, I don't know what key half of this is in, but it's not it doesn't sound right. And so I made it sound right, and then like and then everybody else got to deal with that. Like the other members of the band got to deal with that.
I
Um,
like that. It's like a conversation with yourself. That's really interesting.
yeah, I've done stuff like that with I've done similar with like other projects, like Derasane is one where I will go and just sort of write like all kinds of stuff. I'll have this whole thing of drums laid out, like where Dylan and I were having this conversation about what we were trying to do, and Dylan will just record just the most amazing like drum tracks based on like let's get this kind of vibe, or whatever. And so I'll have like 10, 15 minutes worth of just like, these are all these drum tracks that we can make songs out of. And with that, I'll just go through and I will just, on the fly, I'll just write a whole thing. And then I'll come back later and I'll mute that and I'll write a whole other thing and I'll go through and I'll be like, how much of this sounds like similar? Because if they're similar enough, then I'm on the right track, right? And then I'll just sort of pick and choose like what I like, where do I go from there, and so I don't know. It's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah.
Was noise sort of the first thing that you were doing in this sort of realm, like of like screamo and punk and stuff, or were you in bands like before that?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, I jammed with people before with doing guitar. Like I said, I suck at guitar. Like, I'm not a confident guitar player. I realized like guitars are sort of for me. I mean, maybe one day, like, I go through phases, but at some point I went to a noise show and I just like, it scared me. It made me feel really weird. I was like, I want to do that. That's awesome. And yeah, when I started playing like a lot of the DIY shows and playing with punk bands, like on the same bill, I mean, it was doing noise. Yeah. And then later I played bass in a band called Back Talk with some really good friends of mine. They're my roommates at the time as well. I did that for a while, but then that just didn't work out, and they went on to continue to do awesome things. But yeah, that's really I mostly book shows, honestly. Like my whole time being involved in sort of like DIY and punk is like mostly been booking. But yeah, most of the shows I've played, almost all of them have been noise shows. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know Josh a bit from Low Men and Yellow Coats and stuff, and I know Cody a bit from City. What are they? Glass Bones now, formerly City Cop.
Yes, formerly City Cop. Yeah, Glass Bones.
But I don't think I know Tyler. But so like these, these people have, obviously they kind of been around, and so they're starting this band. And how did everything sort of more or less come together, and how did you become involved?
Sure, yeah. So Josh was in a band called Grip Hook for a while.
Oh, right.
And yeah, he was in Low Men as well, but he played bass in Low Men, and then he played guitar in Grip Hook. And they ended up parting ways, and he was looking to do something else. And me and Josh, have talked about doing a post-hardcore, like noisy punk or screamo. We weren't very specific about it. I mean, we're very into screamo, and we booked screamo shows, and Josh was in Low Men, and so we were very interested in trying to do something, just anything. And at first, it was him and Tyler and a different drummer. Actually, I think it was the old drummer of Grip Hook. It's hard to remember because it changed very quickly. And they tried writing some songs together, but the drummer, he has a 9-to-5 and whatever, so he just couldn't find the time for it. So then Josh approached Cody about it, and Cody was super down. Cody also played drums in Low Man.
Oh, that's right
So
at the end.
yeah,
Yeah.
so and Cody is just like incredible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just even bringing him into like already written material, he knows what to do. So
Mm-hmm.
they tried it out and tried writing some new stuff, and it really worked out. And then that's when Josh approached me about doing vocals because he just wanted to see like how's this working out, what's the dynamic like, um, and yeah, then he brought me in, and we've all known each other for a really long time. I've known Josh and Cody for like 10 years. They used to live at a house called Full Mansion, Full House, and I went there constantly. So I know them really well, and I met Tyler through them. And Yeah, that was about almost a year ago exactly that they were the first texted me about it, and uh, jumped in when I had time, and our first practice went really well. So we just continued from there, and things gelled pretty fast.
Was that the first time that you really did like vocals in a thing, or were you was your noise project like vocal heavy or?
Yeah, yeah, I did a lot of vocals,
Oh, okay,
dude. In the
okay,
with the yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Because it can go
what?
either way. Like I've been to where it's like
Absolutely.
there's somebody will literally just pick up the mic one time and yell one word, and out of 40 minutes, that's it. But yeah,
I definitely did some of that, but
okay,
you know, doing that type of like I don't know, doing noise like for me it was about just an explosion of emotion. And for me, because I took singing lessons when I was in theater, that meant doing vocals.
mm-hmm.
So jumping into the band, I mean, it's very different. I had to, you know, these are structured songs, like, and some of them already written, so I had to kind of accommodate that. Um, but I found that to be really exciting and fun. Uh, um, yeah, yeah. So I've done vocals before, but I've never done vocals like this. This was very different.
Do you feel like you're coming from a musical background such as yours? Do you feel like that lends you to um, following the music in a way that, like, a typical hardcore vocalist might not?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes two ways. Like I yes, I do think that helps because I feel like it's funny that Dave from Dave Norman did a write up of the EP
Mm-hmm.
and the single we had come out, and he said that there were two vocalists,
Oh,
and I wanted to correct him, and then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to
this is fun.
because
Yeah.
there's just something like I remember one time at practice they were like, you're doing a lot. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Like, because it's exhausting, but I like that feeling. I like being able to get it out completely. But I think the other part of it, besides musical theater and stuff like that, it's just the desire to just kind of break the mold. Like we're seeing like a big resurgence in post-hardcore and screamo, and I love it. I mean, there's so many great bands right now, but I just wanted to do something just a little different, try something out, and I don't think what I'm doing is like crazy unique, but it's a little different. I don't know. I think it works out.
Yeah.
I didn't know how it was going to sound, and when we listened back to it, I was like, oh, okay. I guess it's okay.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes in a more like a less structured, and I don't mean that as if your songs don't have structure, but like
Yeah.
it's a different kind of thing than a lot of like hardcore or screamo or whatever. I feel like in a more riffy kind of situation, like your band presents, there's a tendency for the vocalist to ignore what's happening and sort of just do their own thing, which I think is very cool. And like, it's actually a skill set that I struggle with. Like, I have to be very conscious if I am letting the music lead me more than I think it should, right?
Mm,
And the thing that
absolutely.
I definitely noticed about like y'all's EP is that there are times when I was like, yeah, most vocalists wouldn't have done that. Most vocalists wouldn't have went with the ba 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 ba, or what, like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like, not that specific thing. I if I would have taken notes or something, I might have had a specific instance. But like,
sure.
sometimes you do let it lead you in a way that the musical theater background makes a lot of sense to me now, because I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can see how like this influence, like whether you're necessarily aware of it or not, is present. And that like just clicked to me. But
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I take that as a compliment. Thank you for
yeah,
listening on that level. That's very cool.
do you think that that's was that what Dave was talking about with the review? Like, was it, or like, was it that he thought that there were two very distinct sounding voices, or that there was just two very different things going on? That
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I could,
I'm not sure. I should ask him honestly
yeah, yeah. That's
because
it's
I yeah, threw me through a loop, and yeah, now that we're talking about it, I'm actually not sure.
yeah. I didn't know if there was like a like a specific part of the quote that clicked in one idea or the next. But yeah, that's really interesting. And I think it's wild to have that to have that given Dave that impression, just because there's so many bands now that like the same person will do a growl, or same person will do a clean, and like Ostraka's a really good example of that. Like Gus
Oh
does
yeah.
does three or four different voices like very well. And you know maybe if you didn't know, if you never saw them, or you just didn't know, you might think it was two or three different people for sure. But I mean, I
I
don't
think
know.
initially I did think it was two vocalists in Ostraka, or like maybe like the guitarist was doing vocals too or something.
Yeah, I think
I was
every
kind of
once in a
surprised
while,
when I
but
saw them. I was like, oh, okay, that's crazy. That's
yeah,
just Gus doing that.
yeah. I think Brian maybe did some vocals here and there back then, but it wasn't like it wasn't it wasn't like, oh, this person specifically does this and that person, because Gus will
Right.
do all those types of voices. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the
Yeah, I'll have to ask him because now I'm very curious. Yeah, maybe he was sort of speaking to the dynamics.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, other than like, the like, other than the adjustment from like doing musical theater to playing in a band, other than the like sort of well, this is different because I'm only dealing with three other people now, and like I'm not beholden to a whole history of the performance of this specific piece,
Mm.
of theater or whatever. um what did you like, what was the most different like part of that change from doing the one thing to the next? Like, um, does one feel way more physical? Like, you mentioned like that now it's much more of an emotional part. Like,
Right.
was the musical theater, was it cerebral in a way that this isn't, and this is more animalistic? Or, like, what do you think the biggest takeaways from one type of performance to the next are?
I think the first thing you said is very true. Like, when you're doing theater, there's sort of like, you're kind of trying to do your own thing, trying to create your own performance, but you're also beholden to like how it's been done before and what the stage directions say and what the musical theater, everything's written out. Like every single part is written out musically. Like, you read the music, you read sheet music, whereas with this, it's like I had to create my own vocal parts. Like, there was no, I was walking into nothing. It was just, you are the vocalist, you're doing the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, another thing you said, yeah, it's very physical. Obviously singing period is physical. It's coming from your own body, but this is like, I'm giving like everything to doing these vocals, because I want to express like a big emotion. I want it to not only come across to people, but that's just what I'm expressing through my vocals, I want to just give it my all. And I want to give my all too, because there are people in my life that, I've watched for years, like, perform in bands and screamo bands and punk bands and what have you, who just gave everything to what they were doing. And some of those people, or even instruments, they like gave everything to what they were doing. And some of those people don't make music anymore or aren't here anymore. And for me, doing the vocals is like about honoring that. It's about giving everything that they can no longer give to it. So I think that adds this extra emotional, physical aspect to what I'm bringing to the band.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of urgency. Yeah, and just like, I imagine, in theater, there's a lot of build up to certain moments that really gotta come across the finish line. But in these moments happen every 30 seconds,
Right. Yes.
Like, so it's it's a big difference. And yeah, especially like, when you're writing about the kinds of things that you're writing about and singing about the kinds of things that you're singing about, and yeah, it gets to be it's a I don't know. I'm kind of lost right now, because I'm just thinking, like,
It's a lot.
yeah. I mean, like, the
It's
first
just,
guitar
you're
player from
experiencing so, like, yeah, like, I feel like I can kind of tell what you're saying. Stop me if I'm wrong, but you're just experiencing so much, like, in those moments. Like, I don't know. That's how it is for me. Like, I'm not just like doing the vocals. I'm not just singing the lyrics. I'm like having an experience. And in theater, it's similar, but it's not as personal. It's not as personal.
Yeah. Well, I was really taken away from what you were saying about, like, you're sort of honoring people that aren't with you anymore, and that's there was a big part of when we would go and play shows where I was leaving my my family behind to go and play these shows. I'd be gone for 2 weeks, and or even if it was, just 3 or 4 days, I'm leaving, like, my family to go do this. And so it was like, this has to mean everything. right? Because why else would I be doing this? And so I would be up there, and I would sort of just a little piece inside me was like, this is what this means to be here. This is what, like, I'm here instead of there, and this has to be bigger than me, And
Yeah.
now it's like, a year or so ago, the first guitar player of Coma Regalia passed away, and
Oh,
and we
I'm sorry for
have,
your loss.
yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
hard.
yeah, I knew this kid. I knew this kid since he was 16 years old, and he was around all my old bands, and we were always going to play in a band together.
Oh,
And, you know, and then there's just other people that I've met through the band, and one of our albums is about like losing a close friend of mine, and also my grandfather in the same like couple of months, and yeah, it does become like this whole other thing at these points where you are like, damn, no, like all these people that I love that can't be here anymore, like I can't just fuck around, right? Like,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
um, and I mean, that's not me like advocating some kind of like ultimate grind mindset either, but it's like when you're on, you need to, or I need to, it needs to be more than just, like, oh, this is cool, you know, like, which it's like, I mean, everybody gonna do something that's like, this is cool, like whether it's like PlayStation or whatever you're gonna do, but like
Yeah,
when it comes to other things, and you can have a band where it's just like, this is cool, but like you aren't gonna see me doing that band in front of people, etc. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know.
absolutely.
Yeah. Listening to the EP, my biggest takeaways were, I'm like, this is a little bit like a more screamo, like Bear vs Shark, but my
Okay, yeah.
my biggest thing was, this is like City Cop meets like Lord Snow musically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the City Cop part, it's like, I was even hearing that in the guitars, and I'm like, the guitar player is not from City Cop, but that's just what I was hearing in the guitars. What else has Tyler been a part of, and like, how big of an influence do you think Max is, just like on everyone in that general area, like as a player?
Sure. Yeah. So Tyler, a long time ago, was in a like, I don't know the nitty gritty. I'll have to ask him because I learn more about it every time we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
He was in like I don't know, like a metalcore kind of like mallcore screamo band, like
Okay.
back in like the late aughts. So he's done a little bit of punk or metal, you know, whatever, like the kind of stuff we're playing now. He's done that a little bit before, but really he just for years like picked his guitar at home, and he played right before we started Braininavat. He played banjo in a band around here called Quitter, and that's it. As far as the influence of Max, I think Max is like, I mean, Max is a true artist. He really is. Like, he can put his mind to anything, and he can learn it and become as proficient in it as he wants to be. Like, he used to play trumpet, and he played banjo. Or I can't remember if he ever continued with banjo, but he played violin, and like, it's crazy what this man does. And I think because that, like, I don't know, that true artistry really comes through in his guitar playing, I think it does put him in a position where he is very influential on people. Because, like, to watch him play all the time and, like, watch him write, like, him writing a song is him hanging out on the porch with you and fiddling with his guitar. Like, you watch him write a song. That's just how he does it, you know? Mm-hmm. That's like his space is like the porch. And Tyler and Max are also really old friends. They went to college together at Kent State. So I think, yeah, there's a little bit of influence there. I remember one time actually we were writing something new. I can't remember when this was. And we got done, like, you know, I just kind of sit in on writing sessions, and when they're more complete, I hop in on the vocals and we work it out, you know, but we still write everything together and talk things out, because sometimes, like, Tyler and Cody can't figure a part out or whatever. And Tyler, like, we got done with something, and Tyler was like, does that sound too much like a Max part? And we were like, I mean, we were like, I don't know. Like, do you feel like it's too Max? And
do you feel like you've played this before? Yeah.
Yeah. And Tyler was like, yeah, it's too Max. I'm gonna change it.
Yeah.
I think they do kind of feed off each other a lot, because Max and Tyler just respect each other a lot as musicians. So, and just a funny thing, you said Lord Snow and City Cop, and you know, they're called Glass Bones now. And even for me, those are like, I don't know, you just named like the two influences for me personally, even. Like the vocals on Lord Snow, like, I mean, she is serving those vocals. Holy shit. I can't believe that they play bass and do that. That is nuts.
Yeah, I don't get it, cause like, yeah, I've helped with, like, recording one of the sessions with them, and for one of their albums, and when those guitars come through and the bass and the drums come through, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm about to hear come out of this bass guitar, but it's like it's perfect, and then it's just, I feel like the music is also totally separate from the vocals, and I'm over here having like a mild stroke, like thinking about how you would do those two things together. But
I just can't believe, when I saw them live, I mean, I knew that I've watched videos, you know, but when I saw them live, I was like just blown away by what I was seeing. I mean, top 5 shows ever. They're just one of my faves.
Yeah, I've also seen Eric, the drummer, play. I've seen Eric play more drunk than anyone should ever be, and it's just like still as tight as like like I don't like. The only person I've seen play drunker was the old drummer for Adobe Homes, where like he was literally passing out like on the drum in
Oh
between
no.
songs, and they'd be like, "You ready?" And he'd just come right back up and play the song flawlessly. But I've seen Eric almost that drunk playing drums, and it
Wow.
was just like it was flawless. And you're like, "How did you do that? You're flawless." And he's like, "I made like three mistakes," and you're like, "Shut up."
I
Like
know.
you didn't make three mistakes. Like you didn't hit your drum dead center that one time, and that's a mistake to you. Like everybody else is just happy to be here, you know. But yeah,
Absolutely.
ridiculously talented band, all of them.
Yep. One of the best. And yeah, and you mentioned City Cop Glass Bones too, and Eddie's vocals, like I just love like their lyrics. I love their vocals, and I was listening to a lot of Lord Snow and a lot of Glass Bones when I was sitting down and like really thinking through how I wanted to approach the vocals.
Yeah. I think it's like one of those things too, where when Coma Regalia first started, we were playing shows with City Cop. Like we must have played one of our first shows with them, like in around 2010, and
Wow.
and there wasn't that many bands doing anything like we were doing then. You know, there was like two bands per state,
Right.
that were kind of doing that kind of thing. And so, that's where I'm like, and to find out that Max and Tyler know each other, like, from way back and stuff, everything makes a lot more sense. But I was just like, why am I getting this vibe? I'm just assuming it's just because, like, at least in that area, that City Cop, and then thereby by extension, the folks in the band are sort of like, it's like they're like, everybody. Yeah, I was going to their shows when I was, this age or this age, or whatever. When there was no other shows, this band was doing the shows, kind of thing. But yeah, you said that the band started around a year ago, and so the first thing just came out on February 7th. Is this like real? Is this y'all really fine tuning everything, or is just this just like, you had these songs and it was hard to get around to recording them? Like, not that like it's not that a year is a long time. I guess I'm just
Yeah.
trying to find out, like, is this more or less all your songs, or is it just like this? Like, what's the process like there from like when you started to when that was recorded, and like how you decided what was going to be what?
Yeah. Um, so the songs that are on the EP, we wrote them pretty quickly. Let me think. I think by like May, we had them pretty worked out. I think we still changed a couple of them, but because we played our first show in June, I think, and no, July. Sorry, and we had scheduled to record right after our first show. It was like July 14th or 15th. They went in and did instruments, and then on the 16th, I went in and did the vocals. After that, we kind of shot it around to different people to mix, just to see like who could do what with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did it live, and there's a lot of like bleed through the mics, and I mean, and no complaints. We are a good friend of ours who was the drummer in Grip Hook did it for free just because he wanted to try out recording. He wanted to see like what he could do, and we're like, yeah, let's try it out. And it really worked out. We loved what we got back. But it took us a while to figure out who was going to mix it. And our friend Sean, I ran into him just like at a coffee shop somewhere, and I was telling him about the songs. He's like, send them to me. Like, actually my friend Sebastian suggested it, and he's like, yeah, send them to me. And Sean sent us back a mix, and we were like, okay, this is it. Like, Sean's going to be mixing this. And then probably by the end of August, early September, we were finally happy with the mixes. Didn't send them back and forth too many times, but he took his time on them, and it worked out. And then our friend mastered them pretty quickly. But then we were like, what do we do with these? Do we just put them out ourselves? Do we, like, what do we do? We didn't know what we wanted to do with them, because we were like, these are like sound pretty good. Like, I could see them being on physical media, and or we could just put it out. I mean, it's not like we have a name, like, this is the first thing we've ever done, and we've only played a handful of shows. So just kind of on a whim, I think I asked, you mentioned Gus earlier. I asked Gus from Ostraka, just like, who do you think we could send this to? And he's like, honestly, you should just send it to Dave at Sigma Beach. Like, they'll do right by it. And if they want to put it out, like, they put out new bands a lot. And I was like, all right, whatever. We kind of know Dave. And I sent it over to him, and he took his time, like, checking them out. And I think maybe in October, he's like, yeah, let's put this out. Let's do tapes through Tomb Tree. And then we got the album art together. So I guess the reason it took so long is we really just took our time on everything. I mean, we all have busy schedules. I'm finishing my undergrad. I feel like an old man. I'm like getting my undergrad. But I'm happy to got this opportunity to finally kind of go through with something. And so it just took a lot of time to figure those things out, because we're busy people, and we were also just kind of going through our friends and letting them take their time. But I think it worked out. I think it really worked out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's nice if you don't have to be on a timetable for anything, and everybody's on the same page with that. Sometimes it can be that one person is chill about everything, and everybody else is not so much, and that leads to problems. But if everybody's on that same page, and it's just like, hey, look, this is gonna happen the way it's gonna happen, then that's really cool. I have enough projects that are kind of like that, and then at the same time, like, I will write an album in 2 days, so it's whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll see what happens in the future. That's how we approach it now. But after I graduate, and I'm doing a study abroad in the summer, because my school is completely funding me to do it. So I was like, sure, I'll go to Italy. When we get back from that, I think we're hoping to not make the band a business or anything. Like, who knows what could happen, but probably play more shows, make things happen a little bit more. So
yeah,
it is hard though. It's a dance for sure.
Yeah. Are there a bunch of other songs that people haven't heard like already, or is what's on the release pretty much what there is, and then it's kind of like we're gonna pick that up when you get back?
So we have 2 other songs. We've played them live, and they're different from the ones on the EP. Not dramatically different, but we're trying to push things further, and we have another song that's like kind of on the back burner. So we kind of have 3. But the other day something really shocking happened. Our bassist was in a car accident.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and he broke his collarbone and his sternum. And it was very serious. Everything was okay, also considering the situation.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of thinking, we have a couple shows on the books that we have yet to announce. We're going to play those, figure out how we want to do that. But other than that, I think we're just going to get to writing, because then I'll be gone for a couple months.
Yeah.
And then when I get back, maybe record them or get back to it and maybe figure out, what do we think of these songs now? Or,
Yeah.
um,
Because everybody else can more or less like keep the train going while you're gone. If it's
yeah,
like, hey, let's
absolutely.
just let's get together again so we stay hot or whatever.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And luckily, Josh is saying that he tried picking up his guitar and playing it. So, and he said he can. So he said after he heals a little bit, if we could bring him to practice, he can sit and hold his bass. So
yeah,
very thankful about that.
yeah,
And
that's I didn't know anything about that. That sucks.
I know, yeah, I don't, if you don't mind me saying, like, if anyone out there wants to buy his art, it's Ramen Shaman Art on Instagram. He's, he could use the help and could use the extra money, and luckily he could still make art. So that's probably how he's going to be making money for a little bit. So yeah, if you have the means and you like what you see, like, that would be a huge help to him.
Yeah, it's at Ramen Shaman Art on Instagram, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out. It's I don't, I imagine a lot of folks are already familiar with it, but it's like it's like haunting kind of shit. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of really reminds me of Ben Templesmith a bit. If anyone who knows who that is, more people probably listening to this know who Ramen Shaman is already than actually know about Ben Templesmith. But
Okay.
but
that's good.
But yeah, it's I mean, that's Ben Templesmith is just like he's a comic artist from about like 20 years ago.
Oh, he makes art.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's really cool. Yeah, I hope that people can check that out and pick stuff up. I thought there was like just a show as well or something, right? Like, wasn't there a show or?
We played
no,
a show.
I meant, did he have an art show?
Oh yes, he just had an art show.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yep, over the past weekend.
Yeah. Because our other friend, like Logan Thier, has one coming up like this weekend. So it's just like it's a big day for Columbus art punks. But big month rather, not a big day. But,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, thank you for letting me mention that.
Of course. Yeah,
I know
I'll put the Instagram tag in the show notes as well, in case people want to be able to just copy and paste that and follow
Great.
along.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah. So so that's more or less the plan. Like you're gonna write some songs and then you're gonna go do your study abroad and eat some pizza and
oh yeah
and various other drink some Italian beers or whatever. They do have some non-alcoholic as well. If
yeah, I'll be partaking in the NA personally.
Yeah, because that was me also.
Yeah,
when I was there. But yeah, it's just like see what happens when you get back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been real cool to chat and sort of hear about like how you came from doing like Hamlet or whatever. I don't what was your
more like
what was your
like
biggest
the Sound
thing?
of Music.
Sound of Music? Okay. Yeah, I was like,
I wish I was doing Hamlet. Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. Like this could have been anything. But Sound of Music, this is. I'm gonna go and listen to the EP again and see if I'm specifically. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I got you.
I think I don't know who did Roger and Hammerstein write that. He's gonna be suing me.
But yeah, it's been real cool to to chat and find out about where all this came from and stuff. I hope that your travels go smoothly and y'all can come back and write some more songs for people to hear. Before we take off,
Absolutely.
though, is there anything else that you did want to chat about before we close? Or
No, I don't think so. I think we had a very like cool, natural conversation. We talk about musical theater a lot, and I didn't expect that, but I'm glad that we did, because it kind of has me thinking about everything in a different frame of mind, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just check out the EP. There's tapes. We'll have merch, all that good stuff. And their Tomb Tree still has tapes, as far as I know.
And that was my conversation with Jeremy Jones. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening as well. If you want to help support the show, you can join us on Patreon, subscribe to the Middleman Records YouTube page, or just repost about the episodes you enjoy. Until next time, take care and do good things.